Anyone seen Holger? Kind of feel like we started without him. Well, this might be a CRTV first, everyone. I'm going to do this whole episode by myself. Nah, I'm just kidding. What's up, everyone? Liz Mueller, VP and Principal Analyst from Constellation Research. And for the first time ever, we were not able to get the gods to align that Holger and I could actually get into a recording studio, even a virtual one, the same day at the same time. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to toss over to Holger. We're going to figure out where he's at right now. We're going to get a little update on the news from him. And then I think he's going to toss it back over to me. So to get us started, let's hit the news.
Hello everybody, welcome to Constellation TV episode number, I think it's 92 or 94. I'm recording this, as you can see, from the car. That's a premiere, we never have done this before. And I don't have our producer Hannah to show you the cheat sheet. So unfortunately couldn't get together in synchronous mode, so let's see how editing magic by Hannah will make this work. What are the news of the week, of last week? Of course, we had Constellation Connected Enterprise, tons of coverage there. I'm sure Liz will mention some of that. I'll be talking about some of the other things that happened last week. It was the big earnings week. We start alphabetically with Apple. As an example, Apple did do okay, I think. Weakness in the overall portfolio, right? The AI is not really working yet for them. Will not be rolled out in Europe. Interestingly, Europe has been stronger than North America in these numbers, despite AI not being available, which could ask some people, is AI really going to be the carrot for people to upgrade their new iPhone? But obviously all eyes are on Q4, the big Christmas season where people give and receive and buy and give themselves Christmas gifts. Interesting also was Meta. The advertising is doing well, as we've seen with Google too. No question, everything's getting more digital. That is working well for everybody. Massive capital spending there, north of, I believe, around the area of 60 billion in the car, as you can see, which is a significant investment. It's clear that both Google and Meta think that you need to have significant generative AI and language model to be relevant in search. They're investing in that significantly. To Google, which I don't know was last week or the week before, dramatic and significant growth, biggest growth from all big vendors, of course, in a smaller base, because of a smaller base, significant growth. But AI really starts to grow for Google. The week before the earnings, Google had the release of their newest custom silicon on custom algorithm custom silicon. Their TPUs are going with version 6, significantly more performance, not surprisingly energy efficient, and that basically means that I can't make this shake less. I'm sorry for that. Don't get dizzy and don't watch this. Just hopefully listen to me. And Google shows that they still have their 3 to 4 year leads in hardware, which I've been maintaining since a while, because they just started earlier with putting their algorithms, their custom algorithms, custom silicon, which is TensorFlow and derivatives on TPUs on Tensor processing. And Microsoft equally good earnings last week, being fueled well, not as great as it could have been potentially. Some potential questions on how that's going to develop in Q4. And when we talked about AWS, of course. AWS, very interesting from that perspective. We know the AWS revenue numbers were kind of like slowing down. The question was, can Amazon stamp and change the tide? Amazon did change the tide. AWS growing again, significantly 50% more on a percentage basis point perspective, from like the low teenage numbers to the high teenage numbers, which is a testament of the overall breadth and depth of AWS. That's pretty much on the earnings side. On the conference side of my coverage, there was SuccessFactors in Lisbon. Couldn't attend because of Constellation Connected Enterprise. Doesn't look like I've missed too much, and no surprise. SuccessFactors is doing things with Joule. Joule is an onboard recording and other elements which are critical for that. It's not a broad adoption of that. I'm not sure about that. So overall, the signal messages from tech is very much broader. The last big event from SAP4 as regards to AI and Joule. But uptake always takes a long time. Interesting things, well, like everybody's doing more things and skills, no question about that. More in the opportunity marketplace, and this being SAP, of course, lots of ecosystem, signing up talent management partners for the talent opportunity marketplace. Not as much move forward to benchmark success factors to what we've seen from Oracle earlier this year and what we've seen from Workday this year. Next week is the big week in HCM with double duty with UKG and with Dayforce having their user conference last week. So stay tuned for that. That's it from a little shaking Uber on the way to the San Diego airport. Catch me on Twitter. Now over to Liz to see what she had to record of last one. Thanks for watching.
Whoa, Holger, buckle up. Bro got a little bouncy there, buddy. But I'm glad you made it to the airport okay. And yes, coming in hot with the news. CCE was, of course, drinking from the fire hose per usual. I can't imagine that it wouldn't be anything less than that. But the thing that really stood out for me this year was all of the great leadership conversations. Normally, we're talking about technology, and of course we did. We talked about the Voldemort of technology, AI, but we also talked about leadership and where real leadership and real innovation leadership was coming from. How do you be that disruptor while you're really driving all of these technologies, all of this growth, all of these experiences? How do you be that leader? How do you drive that forward? And we also got a couple F-bombs from Guy Kawasaki, which is always appreciated. But the thing that made me think about was the biggest thing I keep hearing about in the news is just how many retirement parties we're all going to have to go to pretty soon, because there are an awful lot of CEO retirements coming up. Of course, we have Barak Elam, who's going to be leaving his post as CEO of the contact center darling and customer experience solution NICE. He will be leaving his post at the end of the year. And, I got to tell you, this is a CEO who drove, doubled their revenue. We're talking like hockey stick growth here, drove that progress to cloud. So everything that he has really set up for incoming CEO is a pretty sweet gig, but it's also a pretty large expectation when you've seen that type of success. NICE has already named Scott Russell as their incoming CEO. He will be starting on January 1st of 2025. Scott Russell, a name at least I am certainly familiar with. Poor Scott. He probably thought he was going to get away from me, but nope. Stuck with me, Scott. Stuck with me, buddy. Global Chief Revenue Officer from SAP. Spent 14 years over there. So as I think I've even said before on CRTV, going to be a very different Rolodex that's coming into that top spot. So it's going to be interesting to watch what happens with Barak's retirement. But he's not the only one who's going to be hanging up those leadership cleats, at least for the moment. I have a funny feeling that we're going to see a lot of these faces over and over and over again doing really cool things. The first up in recent news is Andres Renner, the CEO of Pros. Listen, this guy, I feel like sometimes by sheer force of will, he keeps pushing Pros into new and really innovative and progressive waters. This is an organization that has been through the highs and lows of everything with the airline industry, of course, in predictive pricing, but then also has expanded out into some seriously good CPQ and digital marketing offer solutions. So finding a replacement after that retirement is certainly going to be some pretty big shoes to fill, but Andres has really done a great job of establishing a culture at Pros, as well as an understanding that the idea of automation and prediction, the idea of being an AI company from the ground up, is not something new. It's something that can be quite successful, and it's something that really great businesses can be built on. So kudos to him. But yeah, he deserves a couple months in the sun, maybe a pina colada, maybe a nice, cool adult beverage to celebrate his success. But the most recent one, the news that came down, was Raji Thomas, the founder and CEO of Sprinkler. Talk about how a business transforms. I mean, you start off as social media darling and now really are a data and customer insight, a voice hub for the enterprise with solutions that reach across, yes, marketing and those social solutions, but also really robust service and intelligence. Sprinkler today is not the Sprinkler that used to be. It has expanded out its capabilities. It's expanded out where it connects the customer and connects that voice with the enterprise across a lot of different functions. And Raji has really been the vision and the driving force to that organization's growth. Talk about big shoes, but here's the deal. I don't think these guys are going to go too very far. They're always going to be around for some advice. And I think that's a good thing. But it's interesting because I got to think through all the transformation, through all the highs and lows, everything from financial crises to world issues, elections, pandemics, these guys just got tired. And I don't blame them because they've been leading 3 really great organizations. I don't think we're going to see a slowdown in this retirement trend. I think we're actually going to see a couple more retirements before we're all done with this. But for these 3 gentlemen who are retiring, I wish them all well. I'm going to miss seeing them out on the road. I'm going to miss giving them hard time when I ask the hard questions. But I promise your successors are not going to get it any easier. So with that, let's toss it to the rest of our episode today from CRTV. We've got some great interviews that are going to be coming up here. As always, conversations from the top technology executives around the horn. But I'll be back to say goodbye in just a little bit.
Hi, I'm Larry Dignan from Constellation Insights, and I'm here with Erik Severinghaus. He's a co-CEO of Bloomfilter. Hey, how you doing?
Awesome, Larry. Good to be here. Thank you.
So walk me through what Bloomfilter does. I know there's some software development, some process mining. What are you guys up to?
So at the heart of Bloomfilter, what we do is we help our customers build software in a way that's more efficient, more predictable, more observable, and more nimble. And the way that we do that is we connect into the tools that they're already using. So think things like Jira and GitHub and GitLab and Microsoft ADO. We pull all the information about how that process is working. And then we use process mining technology, which I know you're very familiar with, to help a customer understand where is their waste, where is their inefficiency, where are tasks being reworked, where are steps being skipped so they're not in compliance with their own process, which could lead to production outages, it could lead to security vulnerabilities, stuff like that.
So what are the most common thing, or I guess what's in process mining, there's always that eureka moment.
Yeah.
What are some of the common things in software development to stick out?
Yeah, so the really fun thing, you connect into all these systems, you pull out the way that the process is moving. And then we find things like, did you know that 40 or 45% of your tasks require rework? So something gets into testing and it's got to go back and be redone, or God forbid it goes into production and we got to go back and redo it. And when you look at the business impact of all of that rework, it becomes really apparent why 78% of software is late, over budget, or doesn't ship at all. And so we find things like, well, yeah, you're redoing a whole bunch of tasks. A bunch of tasks are going into production without having gone through the testing process that they're supposed to go to. And so when you actually look at that software development lifecycle and that software development process, you find where the process itself isn't being followed, or where it's not leading to good outcomes.
How does it go together with generative AI?
Yeah.
Because I know people are, increasingly using automated code and things like that.
Yeah, there's a few really interesting places where this interacts with AI. The first is we wouldn't be able to do this without AI. So when you think about a software development lifecycle, it's typically got about 15 different tools in it. And trying to stitch together what's happening within that process in a meaningful way would be impossible without AI. We think that's why nobody's done this until we've sort of been able to develop it over the last couple of years. The second is customers are using AI increasingly to build software, and there's less and less governance, unfortunately, over how that's actually happening. So if you look at something like, does this pull request match the requirements that it's ostensibly going to solve? Well, we use AI, we use generative AI to actually analyze the pull request, analyze the requirements, and say, what's the delta between these things? And it's amazing, oftentimes, like what's in the code doesn't match what it's supposed to solve for. The third key place where it becomes really important is a signal to noise sort of analysis engine. So if you think about, I mentioned a lot of tasks are going into production without being tested. And there's a world that can happen where we say, all right, we're going to shut all of that down. But typically the business isn't willing to take that hit. And so what we need to do is we need to analyze all of this work, and we can use generative AI to say things like, how risky is this task? Are we getting ready to push say, a kernel update for Windows NT machines across 300,000 geographically disparate endpoints? And if so, maybe we should make sure to test that point so that we don't have something like the CrowdStrike outage, right? Whereas if something is a spelling error on the front end of a web page that could be easily remediated, maybe it's less important that we flag that as high risk. So we're using generative AI to stitch the process together to govern what's happening in an AI-driven SDLC, and as a signal to noise analysis filter to understand where do we need humans to put the most energy.
How many connectors into different systems do you need?
Well, it's as with anything, there's an 80-20 rule, right? So our aspiration, our growth, and we recently announced a partnership with Celonis, which is helping us get much further along this path, is to connect into the 15 or 20 different tools that companies are using to build software. What we find is that we can get a tremendous amount of value just by kind of getting to the heart of that process. So when you get to the project management, the code repository, the design system, and the CI/CD system, if you kind of start at that middle four, you can get a tremendous amount of process intelligence. Now, it's going to become even more impactful as we connect into things like ServiceNow, as we connect into things like Salesforce, to bring business context into what's happening within the process. But even just at that sort of basic process level, there's a lot we can do.
What do you think we'll see out of process mining and software development once people start scaling up agents and it just seems like we're going to sprawl?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think there is a lot that's going to happen, everything all at once, right? And so the governance layer, I think, is going to become absolutely critical. It's going to move from what people recognize as a nice to have into a must have in terms of how do we govern these agents? How do we have observability into what's happening within this process, whether it's humans or hybrid or fully machine automated? It doesn't change the need for governance over what's happening and over the process. So I think, my personal theory is 2025. If 2024 was the year about, oh my goodness, let's throw all this spaghetti against the wall and see what can stick from an AI use case perspective, I think 2025 is very much going to be the year of how do we govern it? How do we get business value out of it? How do we mitigate the risks around it? And a lot of those types of things.
What are your predictions for 2025 beyond governance?
Yeah, so it's certainly going to be a disruptive year, right? I don't think there's any question about that, both in the technology and in sort of the broader geopolitical landscape. And so there's going to be this flight to what are the things that are reasonably de-risked that we know that we can get business value out of. I think there remains low appetite in the world for things that are high risk at this point. Like CEOs, CFOs are looking for surefire bets. They're looking for the things that they know are going to work. And so I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation around a lot of those types of things. I think companies are going to be increasingly looking to their core vendors. I mean, we see this already, right? Companies are looking to a core set, a reasonably small set of vendors that they consider strategic and saying, hey, there's a lot of cool stuff out there, but show me how you can solve for this use case.
Right. And who's leading the buying charge for that intersection of software development and process? Is it the CIO? Is it the CFO? Who's driving that purchase?
It depends a little bit. So for every company is a software company in many ways, right? But for what I would call pure software companies, it tends to be led out of a CTO's office or sometimes a chief product officer's office. For more mainline companies that do something brick and mortar, moving atoms, not just bits, it tends to come out of a CIO's office. What we see is the CFO, the COO, the business folks are key stakeholders for it. They very much want observability. They want what's happening within this black box of software development to be translated into words that they understand. They don't want to talk about story points. They don't want to talk about sprints, right? They want to talk about milestones, deliverables, and quarters. And so they need this translation layer. They're very much a key part of the buying community, but the folks who own this really remain the CTO, sometimes the chief product officer, or oftentimes the chief information officer.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely, Larry. Thank you so much, man.
Good stuff.
Hey, everyone. It is, that's right, CRTV OGs, right? I'm allowed to call us that now. Doug was concerned that I was calling everybody old. But we're the OGs, right? Your original hosts from CRTV. And we are here once again in the pumpkin patch at Constellations Connected Enterprise 2024. Reporting on day one highlights. Doug, what was your favorite thing today?
I got to go with Cassie Korsakoff's keynote on AI. I think she made us think about it in different ways, primarily saying it's not a tool for decision support. It's a product of decision support.
Ooh.
Meaning humans make decisions about what AI does. What is it made for? What data is the AI trained on? And what tests is the AI required to pass? So I think her big takeaway was demystifying AI and saying that, human frailties are built into AI and we have to be aware of them.
Like that.
That was a good point.
I like that. Holger?
No, certainly great keynote, whatever we call this. I don't like the decision support thing because DSS, remember that, Doug? Decision support systems, right? That is so last century. Listen, agents have to make decisions, obviously, but I think it needs to have a 2025 upgrade from that terminology. We had great panels all across the board, from Web 3.0 startup pitches to cybersecurity on the legislative side and what can go wrong. I had a panel on a working AI project happening earlier. What did I miss?
Well, our old friend Esteban Kolsky had a great panel on
really
what's
good
next
session
after GenAI, and Barney Pell, our old friend Bert Wall, Denise Holt of AI Global Media, and one of the things they talked about was active inference AI. Look it up. It's going to be interesting.
I think that's funny because the connection today, as much as we joked about not wanting to talk about AI, because I think we're all kind of AI'd out for 2024, was that the reality here was it was, yes, about the decision support. It wasn't about the decision support, but it was about the velocity. And I think we tend to talk about that at Constellation a lot, that it's not just about the fact that you're making the decision, you're making the decision faster, and potentially you're automating that decision once you've reinforced that it was the right decision to have been made. So I think the combination of today is definitely talking about the rightness of the decision. What Ray always talks about is when does that human come into that conversation? I would argue that a lot of what we heard about today is about that human in the loop, that decision making has to happen at the point of strategy, not at the point of I've already put everything into the algorithm, I've already stuck all the data in there. Oh my gosh, it's making decisions. What do I do? The helplessness of the conversation of earlier days has to be gone.
But please don't pull me in the loop all the time.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out, do it by yourself, right? There's people talking about the human on the loop, by the loop, next to the loop,
over the loop.
Just do the things which work correctly by yourself and tell me when you need supervision via AI.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking for.
Well, I think we're asking for a lot too, right? Because we also want the AI to self-correct itself, figure out its right data. There's a lot of stuff we want to do. I think the really interesting part is that we also seem to want humans to try to regulate something that humans don't quite understand yet, which I thought was also very interesting from some of the regulatory conversations.
And what could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
Like the European from Switzerland should be named, right? That regulation strangling AI efforts in Europe, which I totally support, by the way. And I'm named. Right?
And Cassie K was making the point, trust the AI system that's made a bunch of mistakes more than the one that's been flawless, because you'll have built a safety net around the one that's made mistakes.
Because human laziness will not put it in the one that's always been right. Why should we do this? It's like almost like CrowdStrike, right?
Stop!
This new released software testing system.
What could go wrong?
It went right 3 times. Why would it break the 4th time?
Why update the cert? I think it was also interesting to end the day with a keynote from Guy Kawasaki.
Absolutely.
I think I get the inside track on Guy Kawasaki's conversations because, at his heart, at his core, that man is a marketer. He is always going to be thinking about customer. He's always going to be thinking about brand and the impact of that. And I think what was so interesting in his conversation was that it was about asking more questions and being really uncomfortable and being okay with being uncomfortable, which I think as we're talking about AI, we have to admit the fact that we a lot of times don't necessarily know what we're doing when it comes to things like generative. So how do we actually eliminate some of the bravado of, of course I know what we're going to do there. We put all these guardrails into our company. How do we actually start saying, hey, listen, sometimes, we cook our own dog food. The dog food doesn't taste too great.
So not just go and see your customer, go and be your customer.
Right. I thought the comment about the straw was brilliant. Of like actually feel what it feels like to have asthma. Wow. Congratulations. That's different than asking AI. Exactly. Eat your food and then go recook it. But that's day one.
But
Drinking from the fire hose yet again, because I think if we're the tradition in the pumpkin patch, I feel like drinking from the fire hose has been the tradition for 14 years of CCE now? Is that what we're at?
But the pumpkin patch has been augmented, upgraded.
This pumpkin patch
We had a
has.
bench in the Not one, but two scarecrows.
We have multiple scarecrows. We've got multiple types of pumpkins. We got, and we got Hannah here filming us in the pumpkin patch. They have gone absolutely bonkers.
Yes.
They finally turned the AC on, so we're super stoked about that. Listen, day 2, well, clearly coming up tomorrow, but you're actually going to hear from Larry Dignan and Martin Schneider on their thoughts around day 2. You'll probably hear from us too. And I do have to say, there's a runaway golf cart going by us right now. It's just randomly going down.
Maybe it's robotic, right?
It's an AI-powered golfer. It is picking up steam. It's going faster, folks. Oh boy, there it goes.
It's the Waymo golf cart.
It's the Waymo golf cart. It's the Tesla of golf carts. You saw it here first, everyone. Automation at its
Golf club
finest.
signed the waiver?
I hope so. I hope someone signed the waiver for that. Well, we've officially now seen it all here at the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay. Stay tuned tomorrow for the summary from our colleagues and, of course, more thoughts from us, because can you really stop us?
No.
Unstoppable.
Unstoppable OGs.
Unstoppable OGs. That's our new t-shirt. Look for it on the site.
Hey, this is Larry Dignan from Constellation Research, and we are here with the Day 2 recap of CCE. Let's see, the thing that stuck out to me the most is we had a guy who just absolutely destroys IT budgets, and that was so entertaining.
That was really cool.
That was the coolest thing of the day. Like, okay,
Yeah, some of those numbers seem insane, but hey,
we talked about active inference. We talked about all sorts of big picture things, but to see a guy take a machete to an IT budget like that was probably the greatest thing I've seen ever. Like,
Yeah.
that was so beyond awesome.
That was pretty wild. One of the things I think was really good was a lot of employee experience and not connecting it just to customer experience and really talking about how AI can actually help the employee experience, both from a workforce management perspective, just also to optimization, and even talking about how agent AI can actually mess with our emotions a little bit. And do some
that was kind of weird.
It was kind of weird. It got a little deep. It got a little funky.
Holger was
there.
talking about love and falling in love.
Yeah, falling in love with your agent.
It's a little weird.
Yeah, I don't know if that's an employee experience or a consumer experience, but that was pretty interesting. We talked a bit, about
it's an experience.
Yeah, it's an experience.
I probably don't need to go any deeper than that, but whatever. That's Holger.
What were your highlights, Shrek?
I really like the session on AI. The appropriate title could have been debunking, what AI is.
Yeah.
Except she didn't say it's debunking. So it's simplifying the hype. So unhyping what AI really means. So breaking it down, saying that, hey, this is what AI actually means. And as a leader, how you navigate. And we see this disruption. This happens every decade. This is what we have always seen. So this is nothing new in that sense. So you just don't take it for granted that you know it's coming, and you need to be prepared for this. But then how do you navigate? So unbundling, not getting into hype at the same time, taking it seriously. And I like the RIM video that she rolled. It's talking about RIM execs saying that no, we're just gonna do the same thing that we have been doing, and we would just be fine.
I didn't even remember that BlackBerry CEO.
Yeah.
And that video was revealing, like we know what happened, but watching that video, especially when we are talking about AI, was amazing.
Yep.
And I really loved the startup pitches. I think they were towards the end.
They were really cool. Yeah, the GPS on steroids one was kind of neat when you really think about how much we're like rethinking that for everything from like fleet management to changing the way we think about how cities work to just detecting fraud just because of how things move and all that in ways that we can't with other RFID and GPS. It was really kind of cool.
So we debunked, we ripped stuff to shreds, and we fell in love with our AI agents.
It was a great day too.
Welcome day 2.
Yeah, exactly.
It was an amazing day too.
It was. It really was. For my first CCE, the last 2 days have been amazing, and we still got one more to go.
Well, that does it for us. Listen, you got a lot fewer bloopers, or at least probably more bloopers of me just screwing up in private. But Next time, you are going to be getting Larry and Martin, the dynamic duo, bringing you the news in our next episode of CRTV. As always, you can follow us on Twitter. And absolutely make sure you are subscribing to our YouTube channel. We got a lot of videos going up there. You can always catch up with us as we are all out on the road. Until next time, everyone, on behalf of Holger and myself, we'll see you on the next episode. I'm going to wait for my internet to not suck, because that little bug right above my head that no one can see says my internet blows right now. Oh, it's so much better right now. So I'm going to be quiet. And then Hannah, I'm going to do the close. Thank goodness Hannah's really good at editing. Maybe she could get some motion stabilization for Holger's Uber driver, who apparently decided to hit every pothole on the way to the airport. That looked brutal. Or like he needed, good thing Holger like travels with all those rollers, because that whole ride looked like he needed to have like a therapy session, a chiropractic adjustment. Okay. Of course, I still managed to have bloopers, and I'm literally recording by myself. Just sitting here talking to myself, and I still managed to have something mess up. And well, at least we got a blooper reel. Anyhow, okay. Getting that ready. That was really long and really crappy. So I'm going to do another one, and you can decide which one you want to use. Because, wow, that sucked monkey balls. But I don't want to re-record all the stuff in the very beginning. So you got to suffer through this. Okay. I'm done. I think that's it. Sorry that you had to edit this. We're weird. Later, Hannah.